Hello, it's Ruby, and today is the day. The new academic planner for 2025 and 2026 is now here. This is the 6th planner that we have released. So we started in 2020 and now we are here in 2025. So in this video I'm going to be setting up my planner and also doing a walkthrough and like a flick through of what is included in this year's planner. And like with last year, we do have different colour options this year. So first we have got this beautiful blue planner with tiny little candlesticks on either side, and I love this one. I love how the planner looks in blue. I feel like blue is always a good choice. Then we have got yellow with some tiny little flowers on the side, and each of the planners is like really quite different in terms of tone this year, which I like. And the really exciting one is this one. We worked with Jenny Elwyn, who is one of my favourite artists. She creates the most cozy, beautiful, kind of whimsical art, and you can follow her on Instagram at Jenny Elwyn. I'm a long-term fan of her work, and so asked if she would design a limited edition, like special cover for this year's launch, and this is what she came up with. Gorgeous. Like, I love the rain falling in the background and the tiny little cat with the green ribbon and all the books on the sides, and the books actually do have titles added as well. So once she'd finished it, she asked what book titles do you want to add, and so we've got a little princess there, we've got Wuthering Heights. So yes, those are our 3 planners for the new year. And the big question I've already got on Instagram is, will there be a yearly planner this year? And there will, and we plan on having the same colourways. So if you aren't in education and you want to wait and get that one, then it will be released. Without further ado, let's get started actually setting up this planner. I honestly still can't believe that pumpkin productivity exists. Like, it's everything that I wanted in a company when I was a kid. As somebody who just loved planning and still does love planning and loves a good planner and loves filling in lots of like interesting questions in planners and there being like interesting spreads. I love that this planner is just filled with interesting spreads, like things like we've got mid-year reflections here for February, for example. This planner has every spread that you might need as a student, and it is built and designed on years of studying and using planners and knowing what things I wanted to have in planners. And I still remember saying when I was, I think maybe like 14, I would love to design planners. Like, I just really wanted to design planners, and now here I am on my 6th year of releasing these planners, and that's all thanks to you and your support. So thank you so much to everyone who has supported Pumpkin Productivity over the years. I'm always overwhelmed by like the positivity, the wonderful feedback that we get from these planners, and people saying it's the only planner that they'll use and that they've used it for 5 years, and like just, I don't know, like I'm very grateful. But with that said, let's set up this planner. So on the first page, of course, we've got the little welcome note, and then we start with an about me page. As a kid, I always loved those journals where you had about me questions at the beginning, and it would be like, what's your favourite colour? What's your family like? And then slowly over time, those questions just evaporated. This planner very much tries to bridge the gap between planning and journaling. Like, it's part planner, but it's also part journal. Planners are all about keeping track of your time, and I love the idea of your planner being something you can look back on and you can turn back to, and you can see what you were like in that moment in time. And that's why we've got these questions around what are your biggest motivations. There's a space for your favourites, like what's your favourite book, film and song at the moment, and then at the end of the year you can go back and fill that in and see how that's changed. I deliberated so much over my answers for that as well, and choosing a song was even trickier, but I went for These Days by Nico, which I've been listening to basically on repeat. Next, we have got a key, and I've been using the same key for like a decade, so this never changes, but it's still fun to fill out. And then there's a colour code section for your subjects. Now, I'm not in academia this year, so I don't have subjects to colour code, but I do have different life focuses, so I added those into the colour key. So things like PhD application, work, writing. Like, this planner can be used if you're not in academia, even though some of the questions are specific to academics. And in the right hand column there are more questions. I think of these like mini journal prompts. Like, they only take you a moment to fill out, but it gets you thinking and gets you reflecting. For my role models, I wrote down 2 academics whose work I very much admire, alongside Emma Watson and Malala, who I continue to look up to very much. Then next we've got the contents page, pretty self-explanatory, and then we've got this self-care spread with some more mini journal prompts, which is the best way to describe it. And these questions are designed to make you think, hopefully. And one of my favorite questions in this whole planner is this top one of things that are important to me. Essentially, this is asking like what things actually matter to you, what things are worth your time. So it's there as a kind of little reminder of what your priorities are. I do just personally find these questions helpful, and I do come back to them during the year. There's also a page for academic goals, and again, as I say, I'm not in academia this year. However, there are lots of things I want to learn about, and so I'm setting a baseline for my personal curriculum here. I'm writing a few things that I want to learn this year, and in the third column, a few ways that I might be able to do this, like through internships or courses. And if you're not in academia, even if you don't use this planner, I would highly encourage you to do this. It kind of helps you get in touch with your curiosity and what things you actually genuinely find interesting outside of an educational setting. So here, for example, I've put history of bookbinding, Latin. I really want to learn Latin this year and improve my Latin this year. I also want to learn more about Victorian bibliography this year. So bibliography is like the study of the physical object of a book, and I love it. It's one of my favorite areas of study, but while I know a lot about early modern bibliography, I don't know much about Victorian, so that's on my list. Next, we go into the morning and night routine habit list. This is basically for writing down things that, there are set things that we can do in the mornings and evenings that we know make us feel better, and that will be different for every single person. I know that having a cold shower in the morning always sets up my day in a really positive way, and this is a place just for keeping track of anything that you know has a positive impact on your day, on your mental health, on your motivation. So you can either write everything out as a list, or I've wanted to demonstrate a second way of doing this, which is making a kind of collage or journal entry over this. So I took some photos from Pinterest and then used these as visual representations of different habits. So for the evening, for example, I've got reading before bed, of course, having peppermint tea, going on an evening walk or just going outside, and doing kind of brain training or doing something where I'm feeding my brain in some capacity. If you don't have a journal spread like this, or you haven't written down your ideal morning and evening habits recently, genuinely just sit and do it right now. It will only take you a few minutes, but it's such a useful thing to be able to look back on. We are now moving into goal setting. So there is this space for monthly goals where you can separate your academic and your personal goal for each month. I only added in submitting my PhD application because I don't know yet what my goals are for each month. Next, there is a things I want to accomplish list. This is for writing down things you want to do this year, things you want to do in the next 5 years, and it's for kind of long-term goal setting. And then there's a space for tracking clubs and societies, what clubs you want to sign up for, a little timetable to keep track of when your extracurriculars are. This one is another spread I love. It's things to learn more about, which is kind of related to the personal learning list that I said about that I made earlier. But just every time you come across something that you're I want to know more about this, write it down here. And then if you're bored, if you have a spare hour and you just want to do something with your brain, look into one of these things. Otherwise, these questions get lost and then you never find their answers. There is also a space for keeping track of recommendations, because how many times have you been with somebody and then they're oh, you should read this book, and then you kind of forget to write down that book and you can't remember what it's called. As you can see, I have put a little example in as well. I recommend Ophelia Swam by Kelly Swain, which is a book I read last year and it's excellent. There's also a to be read list, so every month you can go through and write down the key books that you want to read that month. It's especially useful for big classics that you might want to read, you could go through and set a main classic to read for every single month. Okay, next is my very favourite spread in the whole planner. This is a book tracker to keep track of all of the books you read. So as you read a book, you just write the title onto the book spine, and I'm not going to demonstrate this because I'm going to start mine in September, but it's so satisfying. I can, however, show you an example in last year's planner. This was as I was updating the books I'd read in December and some of November. and I just love how it all comes together and how you end up with this wonderful visualization of everything you've read. It's just so satisfying. Then there's a library book log for keeping track of library books you've got out, and hopefully also encouraging you to use your local library, because we need to be using our local libraries. There's a monthly calendar overview, and then these next spreads are kind of more actual strategic planning for the new year starting in September. So there's a little checklist. First of all, I wrote down a quick shopping list of some stationery I want to buy. I always save my big stationery shops out of habit for September. And I'm curious, is anyone else the same who isn't in education anymore but still will always save their stationery shop? And then this is more goal setting. It's like getting excited about the new year, which I think is key. And we have our first notes page of the planner. There are loads of these notes pages. So then we go into the actual monthly spreads. So we've got a calendar first where you can write down key dates. Then there's a monthly and a weekly overview, which we've kept from the last few planners. And I'll demonstrate in just a moment how you use this. And after that, we just go into the daily spreads. And again, I will demonstrate this for you in just a second. But first, I wanted to do a full flick through so you can see absolutely everything which is in here, because there are so many interesting, unique spreads, one or two for basically every month. So there are things like exam trackers, there are yearly reflections, space for you to reflect on what things make you happy, testimonials from people. When January comes, you can make a bingo card of things that you want to do and write your ins and outs for the year. There are mid-year kind of reset checklists, exam timetables, space for keeping track of things you need to come back to in revision, and then there are some extra spreads right at the end of the planner, so it finishes at the end of August. And at the back we have a load of notes pages, because there is no such thing as too many notes pages, some master to-do lists, and a few extra spreads. But yes, that is the academic planner for this year. There are a few new spreads, as you can see, but we've kept it mostly the same because I really do think it was perfect as it was. And once again, I genuinely cannot get over this cover. Like, Jenny is so talented and I just love how it came out. But anyway, as promised, I'm going to show you how you fill out the weekly and monthly overview sheets. So we've got the main to-do list for tracking all of the main things you want to do this month. This is for deadlines. I love this. So you can put the date and then like the assessment or the essay or whatever it is. Then your main goals for the month, an affirmation, so something like, I am going to make time for yoga every day this month, how I look after myself, and then proactive things to do and exam preparation, just so you're planning ahead. Sometimes that prompt is valuable. And then finally, something I'm looking forward to. And I will also just quickly demonstrate how you would fill this in. And then the weekly overviews are just unbelievably simple. For each week, just a very short to-do list of the key tasks that you want to complete that week. So you could either fill this in at the beginning of the month, or you could do it every week. It's just a way to make sure that you're working towards your goals every week, and kind of seeing the big picture. And then finally, the most important part, the daily spread. This is the same as it has been the last couple of years. For reference, this is one of the daily planning sheets. So you can see that there is loads and loads of space for writing a to-do list, like half a page. And then there are two columns here so that you could use one for like numbering your tasks or setting priorities, and then another as a checkbox. And then on the other side, this is kind of peripheral tasks, so events which might interfere with your to-do list, reminders, so you can jot things down quickly, and then admin tasks like an email you really need to send or something. And it works very effectively. I love this format. On the weekend it's slightly different, and you can see that there is space for something I'm proud of accomplishing and something to come back to in revision. And I thought I would also just do a time lapse to show you how this works in practice, and how I would fill it out. So I'm just going to run through some key questions that we're always asked. First one, of course, is how much will it cost? So the planner this year is going to cost £18.50, which is the same as usual. Full transparency as well, over the past 5 years, the cost of production has increased like exponentially. It just keeps on going up. And this year especially, we had such a massive jump in how much it costs to make these. We had planned to increase the price to £20, which even then would by no means kind of account for the differences in like how much it costs to make. Increasing the price would have made it just more feasible and cost effective for us as a company. However, we've ultimately decided to keep it at £18.50 this year, and then next year we are going to increase the price, like, because we really have no choice but to increase it now. But we didn't want it to come without warning. Like, if you've bought this planner the whole way through your time at university, or like you've been buying it for years and you have it in your head that it's going to be £18.50 and that's what you've got put aside. I don't like the idea of it like just suddenly going up. That just does not seem fair. But this is kind of like the warning that next year we are going to have to increase the price of the planner, and it probably was not a very like financially responsible move for me to keep the planner the same price, but I just don't want this planner to be inaccessible. Sorry, that was a massive pre-ramble, but yes, it will be £18.50 still, which I'm so happy to be able to say. Second question, do you ship internationally? Yes, with a caveat. This year we're not going to be shipping to the US, and I'm really sorry because I know that there are lots of people who order this from the US. Okay, next question, paper. Does it withstand fountain pens? Amazing question. Yes, of course it's thick enough for fountain pen. I test every paper we do to make sure that it is. We've used the same paper GSM as we did in the last planner. We used to use a slightly thicker paper, which was also suitable for watercolour, but we decided to change it so that the planner would be thinner. Because otherwise it was just bulky and heavy and people's covers were coming off, which is why the paper changed. But I actually prefer it like this, and I think it's more portable. Oh, we also print on recycled paper. I will note that we don't have many of these ones, so we've got a very limited number of this cover available. So I will just like note that I think this one will sell out fairly quickly, but the other two should be in stock until September. I think that's all of the key information. Since the last launch, we have also had some to-do list pads launch. These both use paintings that my best friend Blake did. They are absolutely stunning, and I've been using these for the last 6 months since we launched them. But I'm just going to show you these because I actually haven't spoken about them yet. So this is it's just a classic to-do list launch, but it's got like, I just love like the cozy woodland design. And then this is the things accomplished pad. The idea is with this one that you write down things that you accomplished each day that you're proud of, to keep track of them. But yeah, I think that's everything. Thank you so much for watching this setup video, and as always for supporting this planner. Like, I just still cannot believe that like these exist. Like, every single year I just look at it and I'm like, how on earth is this real? Like, it feels like a dream when looking at it, especially this one. Like, this is just gorgeous. Let me know in the comments as well, which is your favourite. Do you prefer like a beautiful illustrated piece of stationery like this, or do you prefer the classic minimalist designs that we've always done? I'd be very interested to know, because I actually think I prefer this, even though this is our classic style. Sorry, actually, very final note, but the planner is going to launch this evening at 5 PM BST, so in a couple of hours, and it's available on pumpkinproductivity.co.uk. But thank you so much again for your support and for watching this video if you watched the whole thing, and I hope that you have more than just a productive week.